Peace and blessings, family. I want to take you on a journey. I have I have a, I have a script because I want to make this as flowing as possible. So if it seems like I'm looking away, I am because I really want my goal is to get your attention. Um, Too many of our people, people in particular, do not understand uh, where we come from. And it's troubling. It really is troubling because if we don't understand where we come from, we'll never get together on where we could be going. And this affliction must be dealt with our people all throughout the world. Our people who were brought from Africa, our people who were colonized on the continent of Africa. We have to start understanding each other, why we're the way we are through no fault of our own from then, but it's a fault of our own for now. So I've been working on a project. My book is called The Africa the World Never Saw. So peace and blessings, family. This is not just history. This is a reminder. It's a reclaiming. It's a remembering. And today I want to take you on a journey, not through the Africa we were taught about, but the Africa the world never saw. For generations, many of us were introduced to Africa through a single doorway: slavery, colonization, poverty. But history does not begin to, but history does not begin at its interruption, at Africa's interruption. Our history began at its origin. Africa's origin was not weakness, it was systems, it was civilization, science, spirituality, and power. Africa before the interruption long began, long before colonization, long before forced labor. Africa had universities before your global trade routes, advanced metallurgy, which is the advancement of using metals. We were making swords and arrow tips and spears and uh, um, um, uh, art out of metal before anyone else was. Governance systems, spiritual philosophies that shaped the world. This wasn't an accident. This was intentional development. This is what Africa was before it was interrupted by the slave trade and colonization from the greed from the European. I hate to use it's hard for me to use the word people for the way they acted towards us, but European society, if you could even call them societies. And the truth, many people don't like to hear about Africa was not colonized because it was weak. Africa was not colonized because it was weak. Africa was colonized because it was valuable. When people are disconnected from their origin, they begin to question their worth. When a people are told their story is in trauma, when people are told their story begins in trauma, they unconsciously accept limitations. This is not just about Africa. This is about identity. Here in America, in the Caribbean, in Europe, across the diaspora, when you don't know where you come from, you will struggle to know where you're going. Why do you think the Jewish people will never allow the Holocaust to ever be forgotten? It'll never be forgotten. We have to have the same motivation. They use the Holocaust, the Jewish people use the Holocaust as motivation for success because they don't allow their kids, their families, their culture will not allow them to forget what went on with them. Too many of our people don't even want to know. I have associates, and I use those terms loosely because they're people of my color, and I call them associates who aren't even interested in knowing. It is so sad, and they tell me it's because it hurts. They can't take it. But can you imagine if you lived during those times? If you were a slave for all of your life, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, very, very seldom we live to be the age of 50 or 60 from the torture and torment and the devastation that we went through mentally, physically, spiritually. So most of us didn't even live that long. But can you imagine not being willing and interested in knowing what your ancestors went through? That does not make any sense. The Jewish people will never allow that. They want their kids, their culture to never forget what they've been through, what they went through. We have to have that same determination for history amongst our people. What would Africa have been? What would Africa have become if it had never been enslaved or colonized? What kind of economies? What kind of universities? What kind of global partnerships? What kind of world will we be living in today if Africa had never been colonized and raped and kidnapped and interrupted of its progress? Africa was not behind. Africa was ahead of its time when the greed of Europe decided to land its ships on the shores of Africa. This is not about blame. It's about vision. This project is not about blaming anyone. It's about expanding vision. Because once you understand what was interrupted, you can begin to imagine what is still possible. Africa is not finished. The story is not over. Why this matters right now? Right now, Africa is at its youngest. Right now, Africa is the youngest continent on Earth. It holds massive natural resources, growing technology hubs, cultural influence, spiritual resilience. And yet, many of our young people are never taught to see Africa as a partner, only as a place for charity. That has to change. If you've seen any of my videos before, if you ever watched any of these videos, you've heard me mention the HBCUs of the United States. HBCUs and the future planet and the future of this planet, the HBCUs, the future of Africa and the planet. Imagine if our educational institutions, especially the HBCUs, reconnected internationally with Africa, not just for symbolism, but for strategy, knowledge exchange, economic collaboration, cultural restoration. We wouldn't be talking about survival, we'd be talking about sovereignty. Why I created this book. I didn't write the book that Africa Never Saw to sell a book. I wrote it because silence is no longer acceptable. I wrote it for students searching for identity, educators needing context, families wanting truth, and anyone who feels there's more to our story than we were told. If this message resonated with you, if you've ever felt there's more to our story, I invite you to read the book, The Africa the World Never Saw. It's available now. The link is in the description below. I'm curious about your comments. Please like and subscribe and share. We really have a lot of work to do. We can do it. We can do it again, like I said before, with unity. Diaspora wide, we have so much to offer each other when we come together. We don't have to live together. We don't have, but we can collaborate worldwide with all of the technology that we have today. The sky is still the limit for us in Africa. Africa is where we're going to get and have access to our sovereignty, our generational wealth. You can invest in Africa from wherever you are in this world. Take a chance. Learn about where you came from, where our people came. You're going to be. I guarantee you, if you take the DNA test, you're going to feel much more proud about being a Black person. A lot more. I guarantee you. Just take the test. Find out where you came from, where your people came from in Africa, what part of Africa. Mine, as I told you, I discovered I'm 80% Nigerian. It set a flame off into my heart and spirit and mind and soul. And it's one of the reasons why I decided to start doing these projects. My actual I come from a background of real estate, buying and selling, fixing and flipping, single family homes, and now land is my primary focus. And being that land, they stole us from our land, they colonized our land, they brought us to a foreign land and made us work for free. Something about all of that just resonated with me to say, I think God put me in a position to share on so many levels why land is so important for us, to us, from us, to pass down generationally. And when they took us from our land, our continent, you can only imagine how much wealth we lost access to, culture, family, friends. I'm going and on. But take a chance. take the DNA test. Read the book. Go on this journey with me. The Africa the world never saw. I thank you for your time. Hopefully this has touched something in you to make you want to know more about us, you, we, family, the family that you never got to meet because of a 400-year gap in our family tree. 400-year gap in our family tree. Think about it. Use your imagination. Let's make our change. Thank you.